Let's go, baby. Wednesday night main event. We told everybody we were going to be live Thursday because we thought it was going to be the scheduled drop.
We tricked you.
Gotcha. Yeah, let's get one of these. Crack them if you got them, son. Let's get it in ya, man.
Oh, Phantom
crack.
First ever Phantom chug on this stream.
Yes, let's go.
I'm
Let's
honored
go.
that I could be the first one.
Hey, guys, we have a special guest today from the Cowboys beat, Chris with a K. What is going on all the way? You said you're from Philly, right?
5 minutes from Philly, so the suburbs of Philadelphia.
Suburbs of Philadelphia. You're like, you're the mole. You're our mole.
Yeah, I do not claim that city. So
well, hey man,
I just tell people I'm from the suburb, like I'm from PA. I'm not from Philly.
Well, we appreciate having you on. Before we get into anything, I gotta ask how someone were you born out there?
Yes, I was born. I told you guys this before the stream, but I'll tell everybody tuning in. I was born in the same hospital that Jason Garrett was born in.
Boo! Not to you. Boo to Garrett. Boo to Jason Garrett.
Maybe I shouldn't be as proud of that.
I got to ask you, though, how did you become a Cowboys fan opposed to cheering for those dirty birds?
Well, so here's the thing, right? Like, I wish I had this, like, great origin story where I had, like, a lineage of family that rooted for the Cowboys. My parents don't give a shit about football. My brothers were kind of the same way. And I don't know. I was just, like, drawn into, like, it was back in, like, 2007. I was just, like, drawn into – like the prestige and the magnitude of the team and, you know, how big time they were, to be honest with you. And I was just like, I'm going to be a fan of this team. They seem pretty damn cool.
I like that.
And, you know, I didn't realize, you know, that they were as big of a rival with the hometown team. And I try to tell people, I'm like, look, this was by accident. You guys suck. And I'm kind of happy that it happened like this. But, you know, it wasn't intentional. People try to claim that it was intentional. I'm like, I'm an asshole. And yes, I'm that big of an asshole to where I will root for the rival team. But unfortunately, that wasn't the motivation behind it. But if that's what you want to think, we'll roll with it.
Well, I like that. Hey, bandwagon boys, how the hell you two doing over there? Crack me if you got him. Get it in you. All over the face, splashed and dashed. Bandwagon boy 1, bandwagon boy 2. You guys feeling good?
Look, when we have a guest on, we can kind of like sit back and we can even do less work. You know what I mean? So
let me in the driver's seat.
I thought I was off tonight. I thought I was off tonight. But
no, you're not off. I'm going to be bouncing questions off you, and if you don't have an exact answer at the exact time, I'm going to call you out.
Well, here's the thing. I've been working harder than all of you right now, trying to get Chris with a K on to the Cowboys CanFan show,
which we appreciate.
The main event. This is great. I feel good that we have a guest, and I sat in traffic before the show, and that sucked balls.
BW2, how are you?
Feeling good. It's always nice to get that first crack 'em in you.
Oh, it's just nice,
of
isn't
the
it?
day, midweek crack 'em.
Yeah, nice Wednesday night main event crack 'em on a beautiful, beautiful British Columbia, Canada day. But we got a lot of Cowboys news to go through tonight, fellas. And again, we got a great guest at Cowboys Beat on any social media platform that you look for him. Post great content. He's actually you've been kind of flirting around out there with some big timers. You got J-Tuck, I know you like to go on with. You've had some Law Nation action going on. So you're out there doing your damn thing, making this Cowboys content. And we're glad you had time to step in here and shoot the shit with us tonight.
Absolutely. I'm glad that you guys had me on. I mean, I'm a fan of you guys. I just want you guys to know this. This is like a fan getting a chance to go on one of his favorite shows. So, you know, it truly is. It's truly an honor to be on with you guys. I have a lot of respect for what you guys do. You guys are great, and you guys crack me up, man.
Well, we appreciate it, man. And we have a few articles that we're going to go through tonight, but before we dive into that, I got to ask you, what were your thoughts on the Cowboys draft? Because obviously that's the biggest thing that's happened in the last month. And it's something that's going to impact the Cowboys not only right now, but down the future. So we've kind of given our grades. I want to know what you thought about it and what your overall grade for the Cowboys draft class this year was so far.
So here's the thing. I always enjoy teams being strategic when it comes to the draft because it's a very strategic-based, part of the offseason. And I really do respect the fact that the Cowboys said, hey, we need to improve our offensive line. We ripped the Tyron Band-Aid off. You know, now we got to move in a different direction. And with that pick 24, they addressed both of the spots on their offensive line that needed to be addressed, which to me was very impressive, right? Like I was in the camp like, all right, you're at 24. If this was me, I would have stood in there and taken Graham Barton.
Okay.
I think that, you know, at least year one, he'll be the better player than Tyler Guyton. But, you know, the Cowboys are very mature when it comes to the draft. I think that's one thing we do have to give them credit for. And they said, hey, look, let's wait and see how this thing plays out. They traded back. They got the extra third-round pick. And with that, they selected a guy who's most likely going to be their center this upcoming season. Who is he going to be Graham Barton? I don't know about that, but I still think that he's an upgrade from what you had. And he kind of shifts where the Cowboys want to go with their offensive line and just team in general. They want to be a more physical football team. And adding Cooper Beebe to this football team makes them more physical.
I like that you said, because not many fans or guys that follow the Cowboys are willing to step out there and go, hey, if I was at 24, I would have just straight up taken Graham Barton. And I like that you're saying that, because Graham Barton, we all thought, like in this room, and actually it was between Graham Barton and JPJ for us, kind of thing. So when Graham Barton was sitting there at 24, I was like, oh yeah, this is in the bag. And then when they traded and got back to 29 and JPJ was still there, I was like, oh man, they're getting JPJ now. So I like the fact that they got two players that are going to be starters instead of just one. And the time will tell which ones end up being the better picks. But what about the grade for the overall draft class?
I would say, see, here's the thing. I don't love grading drafts like after they happen. I want to wait and see how these things play out, but I'll give them a grade with just the prospects that they picked out. I would go A- because not just the prospects that they picked, and we'll get into some more of these other prospects, but you know, I'm a bit higher on some of these players that they drafted, like a Maurice Leafau. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I'm very high on that pick. So because of the strategy that they used in moving back and addressing both spots of the offensive line that needed to be addressed, and not only that, tripling down on offensive line too. And you added, you know, like the Kalen Carson pick, that was a steal in the late 5th round. You know, Brian Broadus brought this up, and I think he made a great point. I think this guy got lost, you know, with the amount of corners that were in the draft. I think he got lost. You know, like Okoye is somebody who I really respect. You know, he's one of my good friends. He said, like, look, his tape's like Devin Witherspoon's tape from Illinois. So, like, if he's going out there and saying something like that, I'm going to trust him on that. So, honestly, the more I think about it, I go with probably an A, just because like a lot of the players they drafted, they got good value on, right? Like Cooper Beebe, the fact you got him at 73, that's great value. Marshawn Nealon, that's a guy that a lot of people had in their top 40, right? Like that's a position that the league looks at as a premium position. And not only that, like he is a Mike Zimmer defensive end, right? Like there were probably better defensive ends on the board, like a Chris Braswell from Alabama, but he's a Mike Zimmer defensive end. And I think that with the traits he has and the skill set that he has, I think he's going to be a great fit under Mike Zimmer. I would say, I think he can do something for this defense right now. So with all that being wrapped up, I would give it an A. I think it's a fair grade just because of the prospects they picked and the strategy that they used in the draft.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, I like to hear it. You're getting me. I'm about to give it an S tier, a super scion tier. You jacked me up with this A- talk. But when we went, we kind of were flirting around the B+-ish area. But for us, like we're basically, for us three, we're just getting into the draft stuff the last couple of years. Like as being Canadians, we don't watch a lot of college football. We don't. Now that we're, a couple years into our show, we are finally scouting and actually doing the PFF thing and studying on players and all this stuff. So we were kind of, the only thing that threw us off was some of the positions they drafted, but we all preached BPA. And that seems like what the Cowboys did the Cowboys went BPA for every pick almost.
BPA boys.
Yeah, we're BPA boys. So I'm happier and happier with the draft as we go on, and knowing that most of the guys, the top 4 that the Cowboys drafted, all have a very good shot of being huge contributors this season. So that's a big plus.
And here's what I'll say, like when it comes to that Guyton pick, Tyler Guyton in most other drafts is probably a top 20 pick. The thing is, there was such a surplus on offensive linemen, specifically offensive tackles, and there was a big run on quarterback as well. Like, nobody's going to tell me that Trevor Penning was a better prospect than Tyler Guyton, but Trevor Penning went in the top 15 or something like that in the 2022 draft. And another thing I do want to add on to this is this, right? 2 years ago, the Cowboys lost all. I would say that the Cowboys lost more talent 2 years ago than they lost this past offseason. And it's, we'll have to wait and see with this draft class, but, they were under a lot of pressure because they did lose in the first round. And, they lost the players that they lost, Gregory, Amari Cooper, La'el Collins. And they had one of the better drafts that I think they've had. They went in that 2022 draft. They drafted 2 All-Pros. I think Ferguson one day will be an All-Pro. So, I mean, and then you have contributors as well. We'll see what happens with Tolbert and Williams. But, man, if Ferguson ends up being an All-Pro and Bland keeps on playing at the level that he's playing at, we already know Tyler Smith's going to continue to play at that level. I mean, we're going to look back on that draft and be like, yeah, that was one of the best drafts they've had in a very long time.
Definitely. So we're going to hop into some Cowboys news here. AJ, what do you got on the docket here?
Well, I just want to say shout out to chat.
Oh,
We got
yeah.
a lot of activity in chat.
Yeah, let's get it. Let's get it.
Dallas Cowboys Chris is in the house.
What up,
And
Chris?
He says, Christopher, what's up, brother? I know you don't go Christopher with the K, goes it's just Chris. For our boy, Dallas Cowboys, Chris says, Christopher, what's up, brother? And I guess maybe if another Chris, but Chris with a CH.
Well, they're buddies. They do it.
I know, but I'm saying he gets a little bit of a pass because same names can do it, right?
Same names can.
I had a quick question. You kind of touched on him, but I'm really interested in the guy, and I have high hopes for Maris Liufau.
Oh, yes.
What are your thoughts on him?
I was actually just going to circle back on that. I think that year one, he will have a role on this team. Is it going to be an every down role? I don't think so. But with Mike Zimmer's defense, he likes to run the AA mug, which
And tell us, you got to tell us what that means. I need to know what a AA nug is.
Mug.
So a AA mug
is it's not McDonald's, okay?
I honestly just crushed 10 nuggies. So
I know. So
the nuggies on my brain.
There's different, terminology. Some people call it double A's. Some people call it the AA mug. And basically what that is you'll see San Francisco running that a lot, where they have Fred Warner and Greenlaw walked up to the line of scrimmage, and they're standing up in the A gaps, which is the gap between the centers and the guards. And, in passing situations, it creates a lot of chaos because you don't know if the linebackers are going to blitz or drop back in coverage. And the reason why I think Overshone and Liufau as well are going to be able to play a role year one, and in that role, is because two things that Maurice Liufau is really good at is blitzing and more specifically coverage. He was one of the best cover linebackers in the nation last year. And when you're running that AA mug, your linebackers, the two things they're supposed to do are blitz and drop back in coverage. So because of that, I think that you're going to see him in second and long, third downs, passing situations, where maybe Eric Kendricks doesn't have that type of juice as a blitzer that he once had. That's where Liufau is going to come in. I don't think you're going to see any drop off when it comes to his ability to cover because he was so damn good at it. And I do think that, he does struggle in run defense, not because he's not physical enough, but because sometimes he'll over pursue, take bad angles, stuff that you can coach out of him. But in pass defense, year one, he'll be able to play a role. And I think it's a really underrated pick. And another thing I will add to this is that I love the fact that our linebackers are converted safeties, because they're not converted safeties like Marquise Bell was a converted safety last year. They're converted safeties because freshman, senior year in high school, freshman year in college, they were a bit, skinnier, right? And then they grew into their man bodies, and now they're 6'2", 230, prototypical NFL linebacker size for today's NFL. And, it helps them out playing safety, in coverage. And, these guys, they like to get downhill and they like to hit people. So to the people who didn't love the LVE and Damone Clark type of like catching approach that, you know, they kind of took to playing linebacker, you're not going to see that anymore.
Because LVE never caught. LVE is always playing catch up.
He would catch him. He would catch him. It would
After the whistle.
It would just be 10 yards downfield.
Yeah, which is sad. I sort not.
I love LVE, but
love LVE.
But I want to see some line. I want to see some hits at the line of scrimmage, baby.
Well, speaking of linebackers, there's a conversation going on in chat right now that I want to give you guys get your guys' take on it. Because they're talking about the draft. Ultra Cowboy, who is probably our most pessimistic chat member or follower of the channel, always comes in with some pretty facts. He just said Overshown is better, and from that, Jenkins Gaming says, Ultra, does Overshown go first linebacker his first year over Cooper if he enters draft this year? And then Ultra Cowboy says, Jenkins, that's a great question. I believe Cooper would have been linebacker number 1, but Overshown about to go off this year. So those are talking about Edgerrin Cooper. Question for you guys. And actually more so Chris with the K, because I want to hear his thoughts. Where do you think Overshown's going to fit in with this mix? It's like we got this free pickup from last year because we didn't get to see him play.
Redshirted. He redshirted essentially.
Yeah. What are you expecting from Overshown this year?
Oh, I think Overshown's going to have a big year, and the reason why is because he's a weak side linebacker, right? So like. They have a true Mike linebacker in the middle of that defense with Eric Kendricks. He's going to be telling guys where to go. And I think that if Eric or Overshown is just getting downhill, especially against the run, making plays against the run, I think he can make plays in coverage as well. There's going to be so many things that he can do for this defense. I think, you know, I saw Ultra Cowboys say Overshown's better than Leofau. Okay. Why not both of them be really good? I mean,
exactly.
There's no comp. I don't care who's better. I just want two really good players on this team. And, you know, they're not the same type of linebacker. Like Leofau is more of a Mike linebacker where, you know, Overshown's more of a weak side linebacker. So they're two different type of guys. But, you know, I do think year one, Overshown's going to make an impact on this team. And like even coming out of training camp, last season, like you heard players talk about how much they liked Overshown.
Oh yeah, we
was able to.
Chris, we saw him at Seattle get injured. We were there live, seeing him get injured. It's looking at the news as the game's going on.
Alex and I almost cried.
They did cry.
Sad.
We cried.
He was everywhere, and
cried.
he was everywhere. That I think he played like 6 snaps and had like 3 tackles. Like it's going to be a completely different linebacking type of style of play with, you know, Overshown and Leofau and even Eric Kendricks. And you know, again, we talk about that AA mug look. Overshown's going to be very effective in that as well, because he's a guy who can blitz and he can cover. So, you know, I'm really, you know, a lot of people are talking about how this team isn't as talented as they were last year. Look, I love Mike Zimmer. I think that Mike Zimmer is going to be the difference for this team this year if they're going to go on a run. Because, you know, I said this all of last season. The problem with the Cowboys was not their talent. I will never believe that the 2023 Packers were a more talented football team than the 2023 Cowboys. They didn't lose because they didn't have enough talent. They lost because they had a poor game plan. And the stuff that was biting them in the behind all year long caught up to them in a big way, and the Packers put it out there in 4K. So, you know, like I might sound like I'm more optimistic than most people, but I truly believe that like if the coaches can get more out of the talent on both sides of the ball, they'll be better. And to the people who are like, how do you know that's going to happen? My answer to that question is, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to happen. I think defensively, I'm very confident that you're going to see the talent on defense being used differently. I think they're going to get the most out of them, because I'll say this. The only difference between Dan Quinn and what Rob Ryan used to do is that they don't share the same names. If Rob Ryan was doing the stuff that Dan Quinn did this year, we'd be having a different conversation. But Dan Quinn has a different level of respect around the league. So we don't like look at it like that. But, you know, like I think year one when Quinn came in and it was Parsons' rookie season, to me, Parsons was the best defensive player in football that year.
Yep.
Like nobody's going to tell me otherwise. Like, what they did with him as a chess piece, if you can get that out of Micah Parsons this year, regardless of the talent that they lost, the defense is going to be better because the defense, I think, under Dan Quinn, his first year was the best defense that they had under Dan Quinn, and it wasn't nearly as talented as it was this year. But because Micah Parsons played at such a high level and elevated those around him, it was a lot better. But they got lazy with using Micah Parsons over these last 2 seasons, and the defense just hasn't been as good, even though they've been more talented.
Yeah, it was just throw him up on the line, throw him up and send him, right? So Zimmer's going to be able to do that. We talked about that a little bit. We're going to cruise into some articles up on this list that we got. Nothing crazy. We know we're right now kind of waiting for the big drop of the schedule. But AJ, what's the first article we got here?
I mean, is it old news? Is it new news? Stephen Jones comments on Dak Prescott extension.
It's great. This is something that we always have to talk with someone. We need to get the feel from Chris with a K about the whole Dak Prescott situation. Like, what are your thoughts with the Dak Prescott? Stephen Jones is still optimistic about a new deal with Dak. What do you think ultimately is going to happen with number 4 before the season, after the season, during the season?
I believe he's going to get signed, but I mean, let me know if I'm crazy, guys.
You're crazy.
Is it me?
You are fucking crazy. There's the first big F-bomb of the day to Chris with a K.
Oh, man. So is it me, or does it seem like this is keeping the Cowboys in the news, right?
It's a news cycle.
This is like one of the biggest talking points in the NFL right now. It's probably the biggest.
Definitely.
Is it crazy to think that they're waiting till training camp so that they can keep the team in the news? Because once training camp starts, the conversation's different. They're not even going to talk about the contract because games are being played.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing that happened with Dak his last contract go around. I think it's funny that you say that because it's exactly what they did. They waited, got talked about all offseason, and then August hit and they signed him. So it's actually, I like to hear that. You might be onto something there.
And here's what I'll say, right? I'm not as hard on the front office as a lot of other people are. Like, I respect the fact that they've been able to bring in as many high-level players as they did, because this is a really talented roster. Where I fault them every single time is, you want these players. You're telling everybody you want these players. This isn't just a Dak thing. This is a Dak, this is a CeeDee Lamb thing, and it's a Micah Parsons thing as well.
Yep.
If you want these guys and they're cornerstone players, pay them. Don't waste time, pay them. Because if they would have reset the market with CeeDee Lamb last year, right, and paid him, I don't know, $27 million, you're saving money because now he's going to get $34 million. That's a real issue that I have with this front office, to where, fuck Philly. But one thing I will commend them on is that they identify cornerstone players and they get them signed. These are cornerstone players. I don't believe that Dallas should move on from Dak Prescott. I watch a lot of tape on quarterbacks, and last season, Dak was the best quarterback on tape last season. If you're asking me quarterbacks that I would definitively, no question, take over Dak, I'm taking Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Herbert. Because I'm a huge Herbert fan. Other than that, CJ Stroud still has to prove something to me. I'm not a fan of, I think Lamar's a really good player, but I'm not a fan of that style of quarterback. So if you're telling me, hey, we can move on from Dak and go get Josh Allen and Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, one of those guys, sign me up. But you can't get one of those guys. So because you have a guy that I look at as a top 7 quarterback, that's where I have him at 7. You're going to reset the market with the guy. It's just
where so you don't think that Trey Lance is Dallas Cowboys savior?
You want to know what? This is what I will say.
Yeah,
he will be their savior in the preseason, because those games are actually going to be entertaining to watch, which is why I'm upset that they got rid of Martavius Bryant, because I wanted to see that. I wanted to see that connection in the preseason. I wanted to see Trey Lance and Martavius Bryant. It would have made the games way more entertaining.
what Stephen Jones actually said here is these things, when he was asked about a contract with Prescott before the start of the season, he says these things happen over time, and when they do happen, they happen fast. They take time when you think about the resources for a quarterback. They just take time.
I took that as we're staying in the headlines, baby.
We're in the headlines. SMID Cowboys.
I want to get to this Ultra Cowboy comment because he brings up an interesting point. Albert Breer said today that he believes the Cowboys are in the same situation as the Rams were with Goff. I completely disagree with Albert Breer because they moved on from Goff and they upgraded at quarterback. Like, you know, is there a Stafford out there that the Cowboys can trade for? Like, if you're telling me, like, hey, you could trade Dak for Herbert, like, yeah, I'm on board with that because he's a really talented quarterback and he's a lot younger. But, okay, if he's in the same situation as Goff, where's Stafford? Like, I think he's actually more in a Stafford situation, if anything, if the Cowboys do move on from him because he's one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the game. And if you put him in a system like San Francisco, they're going to win a lot of football games and probably a Super Bowl.
Yeah, so you're saying that the when he says Rams were with Goff, they had a Stafford on the other side of that. Sorry to cover your face like that, AJ. They have a Stafford over on the other side to kind of do the dip-de-do. There is no one right now that you could potentially see. Like, I mean, who would be that person? It would have been Kirk Cousins. Like Kirk Cousins comes to the Cowboys.
And that's not an upgrade. There isn't one out there. There's no trading for, there's no Goff for Stafford trade where I think both organizations actually benefited. I think Goff found new life in Detroit and Matthew Stafford obviously went on to win a Super Bowl, but there isn't a situation where the Cowboys can trade Dak Prescott and get better at quarterback in my mind. The only way that they could benefit their team is if they get a ton of first round picks and that ain't happening. So,
and honestly, if Dak were to get traded, Dak to me is a very smart guy. I think he would tell the team that's going to trade for him, don't trade the first round picks. I'll come to you guys in free agency and you won't have to give up anything for me.
Yeah.
You know, because
if Dak's moving on from the Cowboys, like what does he have? Like what is he like? They're moving on from him. So why would he want the other team to suffer for that? Specifically with the situation that he's going into right now, like he has all the leverage. We talked about this before.
Yep. So AJ Jones followed that up with,
asked about if he believes that Prescott can lead the Cowboys to a Super Bowl. He goes, absolutely. This is Stephen Jones, by the way. Absolutely. I mean, I totally think Dak can lead us to a championship. And he said it very sarcastically.
How do you know?
He does everything the right way. He's certainly the leader of the football team. He keeps everybody motivated in the offseason. He's got everybody working out and doing all things that it takes to put the work to give yourself every opportunity to win a championship. Now, there is a good point. Like, talent is one thing, but having a quarterback who can lead a team and who has, like, just the mental capacity to do that. Like, it's one thing to be a talented person. This is where I, like, let wide receivers slide a little bit. It's like, I don't believe a wide receiver needs to be a leader at all if they're out there doing what they're supposed to do.
As long as they have a quarterback doing it.
I just don't think that there's any you should ever expect, or even a running back. Like, those guys are special players. If they have an ego on them or whatever, it's like, it doesn't matter. That's how they have to be to play this part of the ball. The quarterback can't, though. The quarterback needs to be level-headed, needs to know how to talk to his players and like lead the team. So finding talent's one thing, but then finding a person who is going to get the respect of the rest of that offense or the rest of the team, if in most cases, that's another thing that's really hard to find. And so we're talking about Dak's talent, what we're seeing him, but then you couple that with his like veteran ability to know how to talk with different players, and he's seen many different players in his career with Dallas. I just think that's another like kind of unspoken benefit of what Dak Prescott brings to the Cowboys, right?
Well, I want to take a vote from all of us, starting with Chris with a K. Do you guys believe that Dak Prescott can bring a championship to Big D?
Oh, I believe that he can be the quarterback of a Super Bowl winning team. No doubt about it. Now, is it with the Cowboys? I'm not so sure of that because it seems like, they're kind of reluctant to really go out and make a move that's going to, put this team over the top, right? Like I commend them for the ability to draft and I evaluate talent like that. But it's like, man, you're right there. Go make a move that's really gonna, take you over the top. And I think that's kind of the thing that's been missing with this team, to where it's like, I look at a team like the Rams and they're like, hey, we have a really damn good team. Let's go add OBJ. Let's go add Von Miller. Let's try to increase the odds that we can get this done. And, like, I believe that luck favors those who are prepared and do things the right way, because, like, let's be honest here, the Rams got really lucky in that playoff run when it came to their playoffs to like their opponents, right? Like, they played Arizona in round 1. Arizona was done at that point. They played Tampa Bay in round 2, and Tampa Bay didn't have half their offensive line. They go and they play San Francisco at home as a 4 seed, playing at home in the NFC Championship. It doesn't happen quite often. And then they play the Super Bowl at home, and they shouldn't even have made the Super Bowl, because if Stafford throws that interception to Jaquiski Tart, they're not making it. So, like, I always believe that luck favors those who are prepared and those who do their best to make things happen. And they just,
dare I say, go all in?
No, you're not allowed saying that.
Dare I say the all in quip? What do you guys think, though, over there, fellas? Can Dak Prescott lead the Dallas Cowboys? Well, actually, I didn't ask that. Can Dak Prescott win a championship for an NFL team?
Yes, and I do think that he could lead the Cowboy, like you just mentioned, Chris, with a K. The Cowboys are a cunt's hair away.
Ooh.
I think this was
is that with a K? Is that with a K? Is that with the K? You said that. That was with the K.
That was with a K.
That was with the K.
These are Chris's words, not mine. They're a cunt's hair away
with a K.
With a K from being on that competitive level like they were last year. They just stumbled, and that's the issue, and that's the biggest knock on Dak. I've always looked at it though. And I hate to bring it up, for fear of being called a Dak rider.
Do it, you Dak rider.
It's already too late, you Dak rider.
Everyone knows we're Dak riders. Just say it, you Dak rider.
We're Dak with a K.
And I don't know. I don't know that he lost the game. Like that. Certainly he could have done more, but I don't know that he went out there and lost the game for the Cowboys.
Whole team was flat.
The whole team came out flat, and then there was a little bit of they made it look better than it was at the end, but we all know the true story of that game. So I always just have a hard time of being like, okay, like I could see it if Dak was throwing the ball in the dirt and just, massive amount.
Did have 2 picks, one that got returned for a touchdown.
Truth.
I'm just playing devil's advocate over here.
Right, but I just don't think that's enough to really those were 2 brain fart mistakes. Did cost a touchdown, you're absolutely right. But yeah, like I haven't seen that yet, that it's been such a spoil at quarterback that we need to move on. Like you said, with the chance you'd be taking in the draft or having to trade him, maybe you do get some picks, but you get someone like a Kirk Cousins or maybe on that tier, the bottom of
like 10 to 15.
Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That's that's what you're hearing. Yeah, that's what you're kind of hearing. But the thing is with me, and I believe Dak can win a Super Bowl, and I have the same fear that I had with Tony Romo. My biggest fear with Tony Romo was he was going to get run out of Dallas, which happened.
Yep.
But he retired. My fear was, good call. Let me get
crack him if you got him.
Crack him if you got him.
Shit. So he cracked him not on camera. So then I switched to him, and then you cracked it not on camera. Guys,
hey, it's
we're
okay.
just out of sync. I wanted to say our boy Boots on the Ground just showed up in the chat.
Boots on the Ground. We're an audio show.
Not just an audio show.
No, we're on YouTube also at Cowboys CanFan on all social media platforms. But I do think Dak Prescott can win a Super Bowl. My biggest worry was Tony Romo is going to leave the Dallas Cowboys and go and win a Super Bowl. Romo was one of my favorite players. Dak Prescott, I don't love him as much as I love Tony Romo, but I still think he can do it. And my biggest fear is he will leave Dallas, and the first team he goes to, he's going to put them instantly in Super Bowl contention and go there and win one. So my mind is he can. Did they butcher his last contract and completely kind of the front office fumbled it? You're going to hear all the news media outlets point to Dak Prescott's contract and kind of blame him and the player himself. But every other team figures it out with their all-star quarterbacks to still be able to retain their special players. The Cowboys didn't. So the Cowboys fumbled that one in my mind. And the whole fact that we're in this situation where the Cowboys couldn't go out and sign some big name, big ticket free agents is on the front office, not Dak Prescott himself.
Ultra Cowboys says, if Dak wins a Super Bowl, I will come in here and give you $100 super chat. I actually don't. I want you to just change your name to Ultra Dak Cowboy
here's the thing. Can I add to that?
Yeah, of course.
I'll say that I do truly believe that Dak gets a contract extension, because here's the thing, right? There is nothing more demoralizing than being in quarterback purgatory. Nothing. Granted, I've been a fan for 17 years, so I didn't go through the Quincy Carter and or not Quincy Carter. I didn't go through the quarterback purgatory days. Like the only quarterback purgatory I saw was like in that 2015 season where it's like, oh damn, Ryan Mallett's playing quarterback, or whoever the hell it was that was playing quarterback that season.
Hey, you were around for 2020 also, though. 2020 was not a very good year either.
Andy Dalton, exactly. Like if Dak is the quarterback that year, they probably win 9-10 games and make it to the playoffs that year. They probably lose in the first round. But I do believe that, because look, Jerry is not getting any younger, right? He's heading towards 100, not away from 100. Okay. So I do think that they believe in Dak's skill set. I think that there are very smart football minds within that organization that will tell them, don't think it's so easy to find a guy that's this good. There's not many of them out there. And ultimately, I think that honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if Dak ends up getting a 4-year contract, because that's what he got the last time. And, we deal with this all over again in a few more years, because it was just 3 years ago we were talking about contract extension, and now, we're talking about it again. So
that's I hate those 4-year contracts. What do you think? I don't know if you answered if you think Dak can do it or not.
Yeah, I mean,
we move on from Dakota.
No, I think Dak has it. Dak has the ability to win a Super Bowl, because that's your question. That was your question. Not will Dak win a Super Bowl with the Cowboys, because there seems to be some sort of looming hex. I do think Dak's a capable quarterback because we've seen him put up the numbers, but we've also seen him fail in the playoffs for a surmountable amount of reasons. That doesn't make sense, but for a ton of reasons on why he didn't get past, or the team hasn't got past. So I do think Dak Prescott has the ability to take a football team to the Super Bowl or to a championship game.
God damn, they had the goddamn map laid out for them last year. Get the 2 seed. God damn you, motherfuckers. Dak takes them to. What if Dak takes them to at least? No.
What?
NFC Championship game? That's not the bar to me. The NFC Championship.
No, it's
getting into the Super Bowl and losing isn't even the bar. It's win or GTFO, mate.
Because you want to know what people say? Oh, well, finally you got to a conference championship game. Exactly. I do think you're saying a lot of good things there. One thing I will add
Thank
to
you,
this.
Chris with a K.
Don't tell him that. Do not tell Adam that he said anything good.
I do believe, this is what I'll say. Dak's played in the divisional round, I think 3 times over the course of his career. 2 of those 3 games, I think he played well enough to win that football game. Like that game against the Rams, Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh could not be blocked that game. Ezekiel Elliott couldn't run the football that game. The defense couldn't stop the run that game. Like I think Dak was, for the Cowboys, the best player on the field that game. And I think that if he would have got more help from the surrounding cast, they would have won that game and got to the NFC Championship game that year. Like I do think that in the divisional rounds that he's played in, he's in 2 of the instances, he's played well enough to get the team to the conference championship.
His first 2016 against Green Bay, he played awesome. That was probably his best postseason game, actually, without the win. But there's that looming cloud over Dak Prescott, and it's going to be seen to what happens. But there's a player that the Cowboys might be reaching out to possibly bring in to give Dakota Prescott a little bit of help in the wide receiver room, AJ.
Yeah, well, Zay Jones, which seems like only yesterday that he was being drafted as a rookie, but he's played 6 or so
5 or 6
seasons?
years. Yeah, he's been in the league for a while now.
But Zay Jones is meeting to discuss a possible deal with the Cowboys, and this is at the same time or just on the heels or vice versa of Martavius Bryant being let go. So I don't know if that makes it a little bit more serious, but you know, we always have to caution that anytime a player is available on the free agent market, the Cowboys are tied to them. So
Always.
but this looks like there actually was a meeting.
Meeting makes it ahead of, I'd say, 85%, 90% of the stuff you see on NFL.com or DallasCowboys.com.
Because afterwards, you always hear me like, man, Dallas didn't even reach out to me. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, it's like
Derrick
Henry,
Henry
yeah.
buys a place in Dallas. Derrick Henry, top landing spot, Dallas Cowboys. Oh, Dallas never reached out to me. I'd
they
love
didn't
to go
even
to
talk-
Dallas.
They didn't even talk to me. They didn't say shit to me. What do you think there, Chris, with the K, about Zay Jones? You a fan of this meeting? Do you think it would help the Cowboys bringing in another wide receiver?
Well, here's the thing, right? Like, one thing we know about this offense, especially over the past few years, is they are a pass-heavy offense. So because of that, hey, load up the clip. Load up the clip. If that's going to be your philosophy to throw the football a ton, at least throw the football a ton to a bunch of quality receivers and one of the best receivers in football. You know, I can get on board with that. You know, Zay Jones, he was injured this year. He played in 9 games. I don't know how healthy he was when he actually played, but you know, he had 800 yards 2 years ago. But you know, I just want to add the context that like over the course of his career, he's been kind of like up and down in terms of statistics. And it's like up and down where it's like, hey, this season's like 550 yards, and then this season's like 150. You know, I think that he can be an asset to this team, and you know, like bring him in, let him compete with Jalen Tolbert. I mean, I'm cool with that. You know, again,
Probably would be better than Jalen Tolbert.
Well, I don't feel confident of Jalen Tolbert just being given the 3 spot.
I know Jalen Tolbert should not have the 3 spot. I feel like there's our new wide receiver that we picked up in the draft has a better shot than Jalen Tolbert.
Flournoy.
Flournoy. No lie.
One thing I will say, when Jalen Brooks got the opportunity last year, he made the most of his opportunities. Like I remember, I think it was in the Giants game, ball deflects off somebody. He goes, grabs it, and turns it into like a 30-yard game for the Cowboys. But it's just like every time his number got called, I felt like he stepped up and made something happen for the team. You know, I'm not all the way out on Jalen Brooks either.
Yeah, so it'd be nice to see, you know, a little 3-way. You know, we're into 3-ways with a little with Flournoy, Tolbert. So actually, I'm saying 4-way. Jones and Brooks. You know, throw them all in there and let's see who's the best out of them.
One thing I must preference: I enjoy 3-ways, but not with guys.
Well, then you're on the wrong show.
Crack if you got it. They call that the devil's threesome when it's.
three distinguished gentlemen.
I had to add that in there.
That little asterisk. Here's the I like Zay Jones.
I thought you were going to say.
I like 3-ways.
No, I like Zay Jones, but
I love them too.
But yeah,
but AJ likes it with 3 dudes.
Right.
That's a 4-way then.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, he likes watching it.
The thing I like about, I like Zay Jones, but I think it's just because I know him and I remember him being drafted, and so I like. But he's really not done anything special. You're right. He's had quite an up and down season. Although when he was the target in Jacksonville, he got the ball a lot. He got thrown the ball a lot, and he made something of it. It was, I think, his most impressive season, which is nice. That was only a couple years ago. However, the biggest problem when I look at his PFF stats is his contested catch percentage is only 35%.
That's not great.
So he's not going to be the guy who goes up there and you know, you throw the ball to in the red zone or someone like that. Like maybe he's got certain routes that he runs really well, but I don't know that. Like we were just talking about the number 3, I would like to see. I think Ferguson can cover that, or Schoonmaker can cover those types of passes. So we're just looking for, if that number 3 is a rotation of players and they tally up to be like a really good, if you took all their numbers and tally them up and they'd be a quality number 3 in terms of receptions and yards and touchdowns, I'm fine with that too. We don't need to have like a standout number 3. I mean, the competition would be nice, and it also keeps a bunch of different receivers on the field in case there is an injury. they're not going to be coming in and having to catch up. So I just wonder how many wide receivers the Cowboys are going to keep this year. It's like, did they keep 6 last year, or was it just 5?
That's a great question.
I think so. It was on the active roster.
Yeah, on the active.
You had, the 3 with
Cooks, Lamb,
Tolbert, Cooks, Gallup, Tolbert.
4.
You had Kevontae Turpin, Jalen Brooks, and was that it? Maybe there was.
So 6.
Yeah, but Turpin's more of a special teams wide receiver.
But he was still listed as a wide receiver, though.
I know.
What were you guys asking? The 5 or 6? How many wide receivers were on the roster?
6 or 7.
6.
I think the active the first 53 man, they went 6 wide receivers last year.
Here's one thing I will say: like when it comes to like Zay Jones, he's probably going to be the 4th option on this team. Because I think the number 1 is obviously Lamb. Number 2 is Jake Ferguson.
Yeah.
And receiver,
I was kind of against the idea of like, all right, I don't necessarily want a tight end as my number 2, target on the offense, but like, I think Jake Ferguson can be special. Like, I think he can, I'm not saying he's going to be Kelsey or anything like that, but like Kelsey was the number 2 option, maybe even number 1 option when they had Tyreek Hill. So I think Ferguson's special enough to where he can get 1,000 yards in a season. And if that's the case, he's more than enough to be your number 2 target and accomplish whatever you want to accomplish.
Is it bad that I kind of just want Cedric Wilson to get cut by Miami and we just throw him in this mix and let him, take that 3 or 4 spot?
Yeah,
like,
well,
give me some Cedric Wilson again.
Chat was saying that they would rather us go for Burke over Zay. I mean, Zay Jones, obviously we know Jerry and Steven, they want to wear a Jones jersey that they didn't just put the last name on. They want to have like a legit person on the team.
I just picked this up at the pro shop.
I just picked this up at the get your own Jones jersey at the pro shop.
I have a. Oh, you have.
Well, I was just gonna say, and Ultra is just saying Zay Jones has been visiting Kansas City Chiefs. See, he's saying that he's going to be a Chief, and with all the Rashee Rice stuff going on, possibly they're going to need to fill that wide receiver spot.
If you're a free agent, your best thing is to have your name linked with the Cowboys. That's your best thing you do. That's the best. Even if you don't want to play in Dallas, your best thing is to get your name linked somewhere.
Yeah.
Just get your agent to just reach out to any fucking writer and say, hey, we're thinking about Dallas. And that's going to help your situation, no matter what.
And before you ask that question, I just wanted to give Bocce some chat love here. Don't forget that Zay's dad, Robert Jones, was drafted by the Cowboys first round in 1992. He's going to be our legacy acquisition.
That's Cowboys folklore right
there. So Bocce's going for the Zay Jones. Sorry, Alex, you were going to say something. Chris with a K, shut your fucking mouth. This is our show. Chris with a K. No, go ahead, Alex.
Go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
Wow, you are one mean Canadian.
I wanted to ask the question to you guys. Like, I know somebody said he's going to be a Chief. I don't think he visited with the Chiefs. And if he did,
he's going to be. They said he's set to visit with the Chiefs. Apparently.
Oh, he's set to visit. Oh, okay. Because I was going to say, like, on the initial release, it said, hey, he visited with the Titans and the Cardinals. I'm like, well, if he visited with the Chiefs, I think they would be like the first name, not the Cardinals and the Titans.
Wow.
The Titans.
I get to play with Patrick Mahomes?
Are you Patrick Mahomes?
From Sunshine to Mahomes?
Sunshine to Mahomes. That'd be, as a wide receiver, you're looking at it. AJ, what did you got?
Yeah, what do you got, AJ?
What you got?
If, let's say that Zay Jones does sign with the Cowboys, and you kind of answered it already, but this is more of just the direct question. Where do you feel that Zay Jones fits into this Cowboys offense? Where do you feel he doesn't, or like where do you want him to? Where would you like to see him fit in?
So I would have to really dig into his film to give you a great answer for that. But I'll try my best. I think that he's more of an outside guy, and I think that the Cowboys need outside receivers. Like CeeDee Lamb, he could play on the outside. He is a matchup. He's like the Micah Parsons on their offense. They can move him around, and he's just really effective. But when you have him playing in the slot, he's almost unguardable. So why not give him as many snaps as possible in the slot and, go get guys that are more comfortable playing on the outside and keep CeeDee Lamb in the position where, he's literally unstoppable. Like when we talk about this CeeDee Lamb slot receiver thing, to go on a little bit of a tangent here, fuck what Twitter has to say. Fuck what
fuck
the nerds on TikTok
fucking
have
nerds.
to say. about CeeDee Lamb only playing in the slot. He's unguardable there. You know, it literally makes him one of the best receivers in football. And the last time I checked, if you get 10 yards out of the slot, that still counts as 10 yards.
It's just such a weird It's just such a weird argument that playing out of the slot is a bad thing. It's just such a weird thing that it's a knock on a wide receiver. Like you said, I don't care if CeeDee Lamb gets 2,000 yards and he plays 85% of his snaps out of the slot. Do any of us give a shit? Hell
No.
Like I don't care.
Hell no.
Line up anywhere and get yards. Line up anywhere and score a touchdown. It's like a slot corner, right? It's like the same thing. Well, he's a slot corner. If he's good at it, who gives a shit?
Slot corners like harder to play than outside corner.
Exactly.
And one thing I'll say is like, dude, they make up the dumbest shit for this team. Like, who led the league in yards allowed over the last 2 seasons? I have no idea, but I knew who it wasn't. People told me it was somebody in 2021, but then when you checked like the certain stats sites, it's like PFF had him at 1,000, and then this site had him at like 750, and then this site had him at 800, and this site had him at 690. It's like, it's not really an exact science. So like, why is this getting held against him?
Yep, Cowboys are dumb. That's what it is.
Folklore. Did we just go to a grinding halt on Zay Jones here? Or
Well, I think we talked him off. We talked him right off, and he's having a cigarette.
I was gonna say to answer AJ's question, what would I like to see Zay Jones fill? If he can, I just want whoever ends up being the wide receiver 3 to be the best player in the room. I don't want it just to get defaulted to Jalen Tolbert because
we drafted him,
right? Because it's his turn. I don't want Jalen Tolbert to be the WR3 because he's the default option, right? So that's if someone can get brought in to then challenge each other and the best one in training camp becomes the wide receiver 3, that's my biggest hope.
Great point. I love that point, man. I really do. You know, because there's going to be multiple bodies you can throw at that. If you sign Zay Jones, Brooks, Flournoy, you know, it's a competitive atmosphere, and that's always the best.
Martavis Bryant, wait a minute.
Oh, no. Whoopsies. Okay, what do we got here?
Well, speaking of roster depth here, this is the an article here by Jess Haney from Blogging the Boys.
I know him.
Oh, you do? Oh, I was going to say, we don't know if Jess is a guy or a girl. Together. Oh,
yeah,
you did a show.
We did on PSF, but yeah, continue.
Do you respect him as a writer?
Tremendous amount of respect for him. He's a really, really good guy.
Well, we're going to be the judges of that.
Yeah.
Well, look, whenever you bring up
questionable decision maker here, so always question what I have to do.
Hey, whenever someone brings up a stat or a percentage, I mean, it gets me rock hard.
Well, you're stat boy.
I love the stats.
You're stat boy.
I love looking at rates. Projection: 38% of the Cowboys roster spots are up for grabs.
That's almost half the team.
That's almost half the team.
Can you zoom out for us there a little bit, baby?
I
or
will.
Just to the side once you get there.
Yeah, just let me.
Thanks. Just a little bit behind baseball. Chris with a K. Don't judge us. Sometimes we do it live. We fucking do it live.
We
Okay?
do it live. We like to do it live.
So just a real quick summary. Because he's putting down projected starters, I guess, here, and there are some locks, and those are players who'd have to hit Jerry Jones with their car to not be on the roster come week 1,
and still might be starting.
It still could be starting.
Oh yeah.
So this is the depth chart, I guess, and you can fill in the blanks for who's missing off this list. But basically, obviously, at quarterback, we got Dak Prescott, and then they have Trey Lance.
Woo! Trey Lance. Jess Haynes is starting some shit.
Over Cooper Rush.
I mean, interesting, but I'm happy with either one of those. If Trey Lance outplays Cooper Rush, I'll take it. I'll take it.
Better
that's
player
very
plays.
good. Running back, just Ezekiel Elliott. Wide receivers, obviously, CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, and then the asterisk is it Jalen Tolbert going to be that third? I'll just go through the offense, and then we'll go through defense after. Tight end, Jake Ferguson, Luke Scooney. Tackles, Tyler Guyton, Terrence Steele. Guards, Tyler Smith and Zach Martin. And center, Cooper Bebe.
Baby the baby.
What do you think of that? Is that improved from last year?
So that's what they're saying. That's what they're saying is for sure starters, basically, right? Like that, the top guys there. That's their top.
Yeah, anyone that has a line beside them is like the next on deck questionable right now.
So as far as is it better than last year? There's question marks for me, right? Like there's still Tyler Guyton is a question mark, right? Sure, he's athletic and he's big.
Ezekiel Elliott's still a question mark
Ezekiel
too.
Elliott's a question mark. Cooper Beebe's a question mark. And then I think the rest of the guys, obviously Dak Prescott, he's a all-pro quarterback in my mind. Like Chris with the K said earlier, he was the MVP of the NFL in my mind. Wide receiver CeeDee Lamb, again, in my mind, offensive player of the year. Jake Ferguson's in his third year is going to be nice and juicy. So those guys are all good. Juicy Jake. But you got some question marks on our line, like Tyler Smith, Zach Martin, mainstays. But BB and Tyler Guyton, we don't know yet. So
and Steele, is he going to return?
Oh,
to
and
I
Steele.
don't know. I don't know.
Is Steele going to be 2022 Steele or 2023 Steele?
Yeah. So there's
sideline jockeying.
So
for that
Chris with the
camera
K,
time.
what do you think though? Out of these guys, are you feeling pretty good about this? Like, do you think these starting dudes are better than the dudes we had going or around this time last season?
I can't. Right now because BB and Guyton haven't played yet. I can't like say for certain that
It's tough.
that it's going to be better. One thing I will say is this: I think on the interior they're going to be a lot more physical because Cooper Beebe is a physical player, and I think Zach Martin last year was dealing with was dealing with some injuries as well. So hopefully he returns back to full health and doesn't hold out of training camp again.
Yeah,
and
I thought you were going to say Zach Martin was dealing with a lot of off-field issues. Might go through a divorce with his wife, anger issues, anger management stuff.
he got caught cheating or something.
Got caught cheating. Fucking Zach Martin.
Zach Martin, what a dog. What a dog. Yeah, Zach Martin.
Hound dog.
He's dogging.
One thing I will say, in Dallas, there are plenty of temptations. That's what I will say.
Absolutely.
Allegedly.
So, I think that, you want to know what? I'll go on a limb and I'll say this. I do think by the end of the season, it'll be better than what we had at the end of last season. But like right now, I can't say for certain that they're a better offensive line. I like where they're going. Like, I do like the fact that they're just like, all right, let's just rip off this Tyron Band-Aid.
Yeah.
This is a loaded offensive tackle class. Let's go get a guy we like that has fantastic footwork, that has some traits. And let's go grab Cooper Beebe and let's beat the shit out of people.
Yep.
So you want to know what I'll say for right now? It's not a better offensive line than we had last year, but it could be.
Nice. I'll take that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if Tyler Smith was anyone else from that, say Tyler Smith's a tier 1 tackle, if we had like a top tier 2 tackle, would that make you change your tone a little bit on that? Because he was such a pivotal part of the Cowboys offense for so long. Now he's
Tyron Smith.
Tyron Smith, sorry, yes. Now he's still playing, but with another team, so it's not like he retired, right? So it's like, we could still have him. That might make it a little bit harder to swallow.
Well, there's going to be that comparison.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
and he's a Tyler.
Well, and you got to also, when we said running back, it's unfair for Jesse or Jess to just have one running back on the list there, because we're not dependent on one running back. This is a running back committee room. Like, this is a running back by committee.
But I think this is just he's saying that Ezekiel Elliott's going to be on the team no matter what, where he doesn't know Deuce Vaughn's going to be. He doesn't know if
right.
Am I right? Am I right?
But
I think
put a line there, because if Zeke's going to be there, there should be, like, it's guaranteed that Zeke's not the only running back. They're going to be splitting carries. So we do need another running back there.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't think
you're a Jess Haynes guy. I get it. Whatever.
All I'll say was Tony Pollard going into the season with TP20 last year. I was excited. I thought Tony Pollard had a chance to maybe break Zeke's record, DeMarco Murray's record for most rushing yards as a Dallas Cowboy, and he barely got 1,000 yards. So it's tough. Are we excited about Zeke being our lead back or one of the cogs in the wheel right now? Maybe not, but
excited that Zeke's back on the team.
Trade for someone.
But
he's an asset. He's an asset to this football team.
Yep.
One place where I disagree with on Jesse, I think
Jesse, right? Here we go.
I think Rico Dowdle's a lock.
I think so
really
too.
do.
I love me some Dowdle.
Okay.
Dude, apparently they love Dowdle in that building. Like,
yep.
I think Brian Broadus was talking to somebody and he was like, "Yo, are you surprised that like they didn't draft a running back?" And they're like, "Have you watched Rico Dowdle play?" So they seem to, and I agree with them. Like, when Rico Dowdle is healthy, he's absolutely capable of being a lead back. But that's a pretty big if, and that's not necessarily an if you wanted a starting position to where it's like, yo, this guy missed significant time.
Well, and think of
over
it
the
this
course of
way:
his career.
Dowdle was supposed to be the power back that Zeke was to Tony Pollard last season. Now you substitute Tony Pollard out. Zeke's going to take all those tough carries. Maybe Rico's going to get some of those more, not to call them finesse carries, but he's now kind of maybe playing the role of a TP20 where he's not necessarily needed to be for those tough yardages or tough downs, and possibly we get a little bit more time from him. Because I mean, significantly, if you miss time as a back, how can you recover? Like it's already a dying position that you actually have to. The life expectancy in the NFL for a running back is seeming to go further and further down, or shorter, or smaller.
Well, no one's
you know what I'm saying, right?
No, it's going to be very hard for a running back to sign a second-year contract with their team moving forward.
Or for at least for big money. Like
for big money, that's what I mean.
It's almost non-existent.
CMC, Bijan Robinson might be the guy if he can actually have a good year.
If they actually use him, that there's like, but the percentage of running backs was kind of like wide receiver 10, 15 years ago, where you had 10 or 15 guys that were getting paid. But let's move on to the defense. And when we look at the defense, you got Micah Parsons at defensive end and DeMarcus Lawrence.
Still debatable that they're going to make the team, but whatever.
Then you have the line with Sam Williams and Marshawn Nealon. Defensive tackle, Osa Odigizua and Mozzie Smith. Linebackers, which we all think have been improved, Eric Kendricks, Damone Clark, then DeMarvion Overshone and Maurice Leafau. Cornerbacks, my dog, Trevon Diggs is back. Woo! 7, baby. And then Duron Not So Bland. Then you on the back end, Jordan Lewis and Kalen Carson.
Oh, there's that sneaky fucking Wake Forest pick.
There's that Wake Forest pick.
That K with a Chris.
K with a Chris
There's
pick.
the K like.
And then you got the safeties, Malik Hooker, Donovan Wilson, and Wanye One-Way Thomas. And then special teams, Brandon Aubrey, Brian Anger.
Do you think they're going to sign Aubrey again, or what?
Well, I'll say this much. I feel more comfortable looking at the defense of guys than I did with the offense. Like, you look at those names on defense, and sure, a couple injuries could derail the whole season, but that's a good defense right there. In my mind, that is a good starting defense.
Yeah.
100%. I'm going to tell you this right now. Wanye Thomas is a guy that's going to make a big impact on this defense. When you look at like Mike Zimmer's defenses, he loves those versatile type of players. Like, and that's what Wanye Thomas is, right? He can come down and help stop the run, play deep safety, come down and play in the slot and guard tight ends. Like, this is a very versatile defense. And I'm going to tell you guys this, like, if your only concern is that you need to find another one technique defensive tackle, you're in a really good position defensively.
Totally.
Because you have the premium positions. Like, you have one of the best players in the league at defensive end, and then you have two really good cornerbacks. And, you know, it's going to be very interesting because, like, another thing about Mike Zimmer's scheme is he loves to play press man. And so, you know, it's really going to confuse quarterbacks with the double-A mug that they're going to run with the press man. Like, I'm telling you this right now, it's going to give Jalen Hurts a lot of fits. Like, and I know I'm not like bringing his name up just because he's on the Eagles, but I kind of am. But like, they are our biggest rival. And in those games, that defense is going to flat out give him fits.
I can't run 1 yard touchdown. I can't do the 1 yard touchdown.
Well, he has to read a defense in those games, and he's not very good at that.
Well, you've seen him when he gets stuck in 3rd and long. You're
Bubble
forcing them
screen.
to punt. Yeah, you're forcing them to punt essentially.
If any of these dudes with the dash beside their name at any of these positions, let's just say if one of them turns out to be, you know, a rising star in the NFL and really comes into their own next year, whether they be a rookie or 2nd or 3rd year player here, I think that's a huge benefit for, like, that makes this defense so much better. Because I look at those lines as kind of an asterisk. We don't really know what these guys are going to do.
Yep.
Like, there's high praise for them, but at the end of the day, if just one of them shows up to play, that's like that's a victory almost.
Well, that's
in itself. Like, add another piece of gold to the conference.
Well, who out of the line boys is what we'll call them? Who's going to be? Who has the best chance to succeed out of any guys that have the line?
Trent Sieg.
I was just gonna say you stole what I say.
Son of a bitch.
The one asterisk that on my
We're talking defense.
Well, was ST's up on the house, like, and we're not going to spend a whole section talking about special teams, but
Overshown.
Trent Sieg is down there. He's not on the team. Like, what? He was our number one. He was our number one drafted signing in the offseason.
That's right. That's right. So, I agree. I think Wanye Thomas is going to be interesting. Funny that Marquise Bell's not on this list, but because I think that
interesting.
He should be on that.
Yeah, I feel like he should be in the
he's on
safeties.
this team.
Hey, Chris with a K, text Jess and be like, "What the fuck, Marquise Bell? How
Yeah,
you
where's
gonna do
MB?
this?
Where's M Bell?
What you doing, Marquise Bell,
So
boy?"
Chris
I'm really-
with a K was saying overshown. What do you guys think about
Well,
that?
chat's saying overshown
I'm
as well.
not digging the change of jersey. I like the 35. I was 35 at linebacker growing up playing football, so I kind of had a
Your
thing with
butt
overshown.
hurt. Your butt hurt.
But
brother.
guess who's number 35 now, motherfuckers? My boy Maurice,
Maurice
baby.
Lewis.
So
Maurice.
that's my boy.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know I'm gonna be rocking 35. You know I'm getting the fresh color rush 35, baby. You just
Yes.
know it's happening.
Look at that. Look at
You
that.
know it's happening.
I
got a
can see. I
question
can
for
see
you.
you already.
I'm half Polynesian.
I can see you fully erect right now with that.
It's happening. Let me get one of these in there too.
Crack 'em if you got 'em,
If you
son.
got him. Go
So
ahead,
I got a
Chris with a
question for
K.
you guys, right? Do you guys believe in certain positions should have certain personalities attached to them? Like, for example, I want my quarterback and my middle linebacker to be presidential, well kept. I want my wide receiver to have a main chick and 3 side chicks. One of them's an Instagram model.
Yeah.
The other one does OnlyFans, and the other one's like a TikTok creator.
Yeah.
Like I want,
No one's like a librarian.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I want my defensive tackles to have like a kid when they're 18 and then have another kid when they're like 21, but with another chick, and they got to go and get it.
Yep.
And it's do or die. Like do you guys believe in personality types?
totally.
Because like Maurice Lewis is a very well-spoken Notre Dame gentleman. Like, oh, yeah, I'm going to go get married when I'm 23 and have 4 kids, like that type of guy. Like,
Yeah.
that's
The
what he
the only
strikes
one
me as.
I kind of
It's very Sean Lee, man. It's very Sean Lee.
It fits the Cowboys. I kind of always would want. I would like a Ray Lewis personality in the linebacker. I would like a
murderer.
Shark from Any Given Sunday, also possibly a murderer. Like, yeah, I mean that's and obviously Shark in Any Given Sunday is LT, but I think on the middle linebacker you can kind of I can sway both ways to having that kind of well kept presidential order. I'm out here to do business. I'm the hardest working person on the field, and everybody's going to watch that off of me. And I think maybe if you look at Kendricks to help kind of maybe bring Maurice into that type of position is great. But if we had a guy that was ready to fucking kill...
timeout, though. Timeout.
No timeout.
Yeah, the whole reason that we have Kendricks is because he didn't want to go play second fiddle in San Fran. He would have rather came to Dallas and started.
No,
So
I know,
right
but-
there. I'm taking that shit right there.
Exactly, but I'm saying like Kendricks is probably going is all his whole thing is to come in and help get these younger guys in order, right?
I kind of like a guy that comes in and be like, "Fuck these young kids."
I mean, and maybe he's like that.
I'm gonna get mine.
And I'm saying this. I'm assuming that Kendricks is like that type of guy, but maybe he is more
No,
like
he
a
does
Ray
seem
Lewis.
like no. Kendrick seems like he's like that.
If Zimmer's hanging around for a few years, that's really good for Leafau, Maurice, to be
and Mershon. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's really good for him to be under Eric Kendricks, because I think Kendricks is just this
His
one.
tutelage.
Yeah, he's going to get 1 year under him, and he'll definitely, like, I think Kendricks will be the starter throughout the season. But it
He's
would be
green dot. He's the green dot right now.
And fucking re-sign him if he does. If he's a gangster on the field for us, like re-sign him.
Oh yeah, but like if Maurice does succeed him in that position, that's awesome. That's showing amazing growth. But it's great that he has Kendricks there to help show him the ways, teach him how to be that Mike, as I've heard him being called. Don't really know what it means, but
Well, because they had Sam, Will, Mike, right? So middle linebacker, strong side, weak side.
Strong side.
Like
So
Sam Williams?
Sam Williams is a strong side linebacker.
Sam Williams.
But that's all it is. It's just short or slang, and it's like safety is Steve.
And you know what the whole idea too, when I go back to the personality, is like Roquan Smith. No wonder we didn't sign him, because he is a Ray Lewis type, and that's why he's not on the Cowboys. And
I would
he's
have loved Roquan.
I know, but kind of going into like it.
I think his
he's-
contract had more to do with it.
Nope, it's his personality.
Just
You know what? He's too much like Ray Lewis. We don't
here's the
want him.
thing.
he's a personality A type, and we're not taking him.
To answer the personality question, I do want my middle linebackers, if because they're essentially playing the role of the defensive quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Or they 9 times out of 10 do. I do want them to be a little bit more presidential, a little bit more mental and like in control of their emotions. But I do agree. Like having a Ray Lewis type of linebacker out there but he played with passion, and there's a difference between like passion, I think, and just being a loose cannon.
Well, you know what? Watching, and since we're talking about personalities, when it's so awesome when you get to see Sounds of the Sideline and you get to hear all of the personalities come out. The one thing that, and possibly maybe having a Kendricks on the team and having maybe a stronger personality or a stronger leadership on the defensive side maybe takes some of that pressure off of Micah and allows Micah then to start to just focus on playing ball and not have to I have to lead this entire defense.
I don't think he's ever felt that way.
I don't think. Oh, sorry. Well, yeah, I think he's just thinking I'm I'm the best player out here and let me cook, right? But I'm thinking like in terms of what all the other players need. If Micah's not giving the other players on the team that type of leadership support that we are all thinking that he should be. And when you hear about Micah Parsons and Trevon Diggs, like Trevon Diggs is the one who is the more vocal defensive leader on the team, and he wasn't there last year. So having a guy like Diggs back on the field, what type of element does that type of personality bring to this defense?
Yeah, but he swore at Dak at training camp, so he's not a leader.
You want to know what? This is what I will say. I think like there's a difference between being a great leader and being a great player. And I think Micah Parsons, I don't know if he fits into that great leader category. Like I've been very critical.
You hate Micah. Got it.
No, I don't like. Here's what I say about Micah. And to some people, some Cowboys fans, they get very upset when I say this.
Oh,
he rubs me the wrong way, like a lot.
How so? Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
So here's the thing, right? I remember there's multiple instances. Like this isn't just the one, but like, so you remember 2 years ago when they were going to do the undisputed thing with Skip and Shannon, like he was going to go on every Tuesday. So the following Monday or the following Tuesday, he canceled all of his appearances. And then he said like, oh, well, Dak got injured and we need a leader in the locker room. And then he goes on to say like, hey, I got love for Shannon and Skip. And then like a year later, after the playoffs, he tweets to Skip Bayless like, yeah, because Skip said something about Mike and he's like, and this is why I didn't do your show because I don't fuck with you. And I'm like, wait. You said you didn't do the show because they needed a leader in the locker room. That's why you said it. And then you said you had love for Skip and Shannon. So like, you kind of just lied.
Yeah.
Like, and you're like me, somebody who kind of just remembers this stuff. Like, wait, you said you had love for them and that you didn't do the show because you needed a leader, but now you're saying this, like, so you lied there. And that like doesn't rub me the right way. And it also doesn't rub me the right way when, like he comes out before the playoffs and he talks about Dan Quinn in high praise. And he says, hey, I'd love to go play for Dan Quinn wherever he goes. And then after the playoff game, he comes out on his podcast and he says, well, we had packages where I played linebacker. They just didn't get called. Put that where you want to put it. So you're telling me to put that on your coach.
Yeah.
That's what you're telling me. And then you're telling you a week prior, 2 weeks, whatever it was prior, you talked about Dan Quinn in very high praise and that you want to go play for the guy. Well, I don't know, man. Like I don't like that. And then there was a game this season. It was against the New York Giants where he didn't record a single sack or a single stat, like no tackles, no assisted, no sacks. And they won the game by like 32 points and the defense played at a very high level. And after the game, he didn't want to answer questions from the media.
Yeah.
And it's, and to go back to the undisputed thing, because I left one thing there. Like, I understand it's Skip Bayless and he's an asshole. I will never respect when somebody makes a commitment and then flakes on the commitment. And then, not only that, if the Cowboys would have won that game against Tampa Bay, he would have been on the show that Tuesday.
Yep.
If they would have beat Green Bay, he would have been on his podcast whenever the podcast was going to be held. And, it seems like there's two extremes with the Micah Parsons conversation, right? There's the people that are like, he shouldn't have a podcast. Players should just watch film and do nothing else. And then there's the side that
watch film and masturbate.
Masturbate the film.
Yeah, there you go.
That's
Kill
it.
two birds with one stone, right?
So there's two, like there's the side where it's like, don't have a podcast. And then there's the side where it's like, why are you saying you shouldn't have a podcast? I lean towards like, have a podcast if you want, but I'm going to criticize the things you say if, it paints, if it paints yourself or the team in a bad light. Definitely. And like one last thing where it's like, he comes out on his podcast and he's running his mouth about Brock Purdy and how, he's not a top 5 player on his offense. He's not saying anything wrong, but then when they lose to the Ravens, he tweets out like, oh, isn't it funny that they didn't pass the ball or something along those lines, like sending a shot at Brock Purdy. It's like, dude, you're on a 2-game losing streak.
Yeah.
Shut your fucking mouth.
Yeah.
Time
and place.
That stuff rubs me the wrong way.
Well, and can you chalk that up? Because we talked about it actually when Micah first got drafted, and this is just strictly off of just watching clips and interviews and Hard Knocks when he was first drafted. AJ actually was probably one of the first ones that I heard say it, that he just seemed a little bit immature, right? So can you chalk that up to even, because the guy's what, 23 maybe? What is he, about 23 years old?
I think he's 24.
Maybe 24. Like that's still pretty young, and I know you can only use that excuse for so long. Like this is going to be his 4th year in the league. So that excuse wears thin a little bit. Like it wears thin quickly, but could you chalk up some of that stuff? He's one of the new era athletes where this podcast and all this shit is happening. And I'm not on this. I'm kind of somewhere in the middle with it all. Like I don't give like, it's the podcasting thing. I don't really give a fuck about it because that's going to happen with athletes. But I agree. If you're going to podcast, you better be open to interpretation and like people bitching about what you say, right? Like I think that's fair also. So I land in the middle somewhere, but I still just think he might just be a bit immature.
My thoughts on Micah is still that he is immature, and I think you just like don't put the leadership, don't put the C on his jersey if he's not that guy. We know what he is talent-wise, and as for his podcast, like I'd prefer that he would just focus all of his energy on football as much as he can. That's how you become the greatest, type of player that you can be. But again, I don't care if he wants to do it. He can do what he wants with his own time. But like everyone's saying, you don't get to avoid the scrutiny or the commentary that comes along with that. So, if you're going to open that door to that type of attention, then so be it. But just if it's going to affect your football, then you need to reconsider that. And I don't know that Micah Parsons is a guy who they should look to as like, he could certainly have leadership qualities in his playing ability, but let's not look to him to turn around a 2 or 3 bad series in a row. I don't think he's that guy. I think he needs help in those moments.
Well, you know what,
he needs someone to talk to him.
You know what his biggest weakness has been for me as a football player? When the Dallas Cowboys need that big play in a big game, where all the defensive greats in the NFL have always done, all the Hall of Famers. Yeah, you go back and list 100 of them. They were going to make a play when it mattered. When the game is 10-7 and the team's driving down and you need a sack to knock them out of field goal range or a forced fumble or an interception, Micah has not shown that part yet, that he's been able to be that big game player. And everyone could argue that till they're blue in the face. He hasn't shown that in the postseason. He hasn't shown that. He hasn't, even in big games against Miami last year, against Buffalo last year, he was kind of non-existent, right? So I'm still waiting.
You see it kind of more so in the first half of the season. Like we were there live when he made that big play against the Rams. Chargers, sorry,
I was gonna
Chargers.
say I was gonna say we never watched the Rams.
I know that's how fucked up we were, right?
City.
But yeah,
No,
like
but-
same thing, right? Like, but exactly what you're saying.
Do you call that a big game though?
No,
Week
no,
seven
sorry,
or
sorry,
whatever it was. Week
not a big game, not a big game. Close game. It was a close game.
But I'm talking.
Big moment. But yeah,
I'm talking postseason. He's now been involved in 3 elimination games
Sorry, where
they've been eliminated.
He didn't do it in a game that mattered necessarily. He did it in a moment where it was like, okay, it was a close game, but it was like too early, and
Not
he
the
had
right time.
and if he didn't make that play, his stats were ghost town. That game.
You
I
ready for
believe.
this? You
Yeah, hit
remember
us.
how Jory Epstein said that a defensive coach around the league said that in big games, Micah Parsons is average. Here's the reason why that coach is on to something, and it's not Micah Parsons. It kind of is actually. In big games, you're usually playing really good teams. Really good teams have really good coordinators. Any really good coordinator is going to say, "No, we're not going to throw the ball on a defense that has Trayvon Diggs, Deron Bland, Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, all these really good pass rushers and cornerbacks that can make plays. We're going to run the football." And when teams decide to run the football, Micah Parsons, he is an average run defender. So because he's playing run defense for a big part of the game, that's why he's average in those games, because he's being the way teams are scheming against him is to put him in a position to do something that he's only average at doing.
I like that take. I do like that take.
That's a good closing take.
That's a great.
And one more
take.
thing.
Oh, and here we
thing-
fucking go. I forgot. It's Chris with a K show. Go ahead, Chris with a K.
Ad has a vendetta at you, Chris. I swear. You just bring it out at him.
Because I do think, everybody here made great points when it came to Micah Parsons. And
Except Adam.
it's not easy to speak out about Micah because there are a lot of people who they're like Kendrick Lamar fans. You just can't talk to them.
I'm a
Like you
Kendrick Lamar
can't
fan.
say anything. You can't say anything to them. It's like talking to a wall. It's just like, yo, man, like these are pretty valid complaints. And another thing, the Tyler Guyton reaction video. I understand that he had to do 10 push-ups because of it. 10 push-ups, Micah Parsons. Like, if I'm him in that situation, I'm getting up and I'm like, hey, you know what? I'll do the 10 push-ups for that. Hey, we got a great player. Like, let's go, man. We needed help on the offensive line. But instead, he's like,
Yeah.
dude, that's not the way to handle that. I don't care if you have to do 10 push-ups. Tough shit. Like,
Especially
and
the
that's
way,
where-
especially how the last year's reaction to the first round pick, Mozzie Smith, where he was fucking jumping out of his bones.
DQ got him for me. DQ got him for me. I
So,
talked to him
it's like-
this morning. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Oh, dude. And that's where we come back to the, like, you're going to be scrutinized if you say things on a public forum in Bleacher Report or one of these live streams. You're going to be scrutinized for it. So like
More
don't
than
act
anybody
like-
else, because your name is in your name is in all media people's.
And you're a Cowboys player.
You're a Cowboys player, and then you're Micah Parsons. Your name is always going to be in the conversation. Period.
Definitely.
100% correct.
Cool. Okay. Well.
So, Chris with a K, where can people find you, man? We appreciated having you on. We know you do. You're on all the social media platforms. Where can people find you?
So I'm Cowboys Beat on X, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all those sites. And I want to say thank you guys so much for having me on. This was awesome to be on with you guys. As I said, I'm a big fan of your platform, and being able to be on it, it definitely means the world that you reached out to me.
Well, hey, first of many, man, because it was great chatting with you. You know what? Sometimes we get these people on and they're so boring to talk. I'm just kidding. You were perfect.
Like me?
You were awesome. We loved it. You were super easy to talk to, very knowledgeable. You got us the A mug, the egg mug. I'm only gonna
Egg
go.
mug.
I'm gonna
Double
go
egg
home
mug.
and play on Madden, and all I'm running is A mug, baby.
Hey, Mugs, Mug A, Nuggies, Nuggies.
That's
Zimmer.
all-
Zimmer's playbook.
Zimmer, I'm gonna be on my headset. A mug it up. Let's A mug it up. All right, Chris with the K, we appreciate having you on. For Cowboys CanFan and the Bandwagon Boys over there, we will be back Sunday around 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Wherever that puts you in the world, make sure you come and take a peek. But hey, we out, baby.
We out!
We out, son.